men of color, because I've seen Dr. Phil, I've seen Dr. Oz, but I can't tell you about the numerous men of color that she brought to the forefront to hold them in high esteem. And I'll never forget, and we made mention about this a while ago, when Oprah had Sister Maya Angelou on her show. And she was coming on with a level of frequency. And then all of a sudden, one day, you didn't see her anymore. And it was after the show when they were speaking in reference to finding out people's lineage and their history through, I guess, DNA and things of that nature. And it was shared with Oprah Winfrey that her forefathers or her family members prior to her may have been slaves to Elvis Presley's family. Mm-hmm. And she was so excited to hear that. And Maya Angelou looked over at her like, what did you just say? Mm-hmm. How can you be excited to hear that your family was enslaved, number one, by anybody, much less Elvis Presley's family? And it spoke to a level of the delusional state that she lives in. Spoke about it last week. There's this thing called the Meritorious Manumissions Act of 1710, my people.
Come on.
Again, Meritorious Manumissions Act of 1710. And we see replications of that right now. And what that was, there were 4 things that would allow the slave to get out from under bondage. Number 1, it was to save the slave master's life. Or number 2, to save the slave master's property. Number 3, to create something that was profitable for the slave master. Or number 4, tell on one of the other slaves.
Come on.
So we see right now that there's still that mentality because there's a level of creation of profit for the slave master. And there's a level of freedom, or should I say telling on the other brothers, because Michael was technically free. He's no longer here to defend himself, but we're going to give a platform because we know there's a level of defense that is not going to be had for somebody of color. And a prime example of that is if you're very interested in expelling or dispelling the myths and bringing the truth to the forefront, all we would ask is, why did you never come out and say Monique did nothing wrong by not promoting a movie that she had no contractual obligation to promote, but you stayed silent against Lionsgate?
Come on.
But you'll speak up about a dead man named Michael Jackson. Why is that?
And I want to address, because people are putting in the room and making comments, when she had my family on her show. Mm-hmm. And with the Michael Jackson Neverland interview, I'm not surprised by it, because that woman has shown me who she is. Now, the brother that molested me, Gerald, he and I spoke, and we had not spoken in 17 years. And it was what, about 2 weeks ago? Mm-hmm. About 2 weeks ago. And with the whole Steve Harvey thing was going up in the air, I was going to punch Steve and all this craziness. As y'all found out, that wasn't true. But he called, and he called in a huff. What's wrong with Monique? And she doing all this. And actually what he said was, she's messing up deals for our other brother because the people think she too violent. It's like, well, how could I be messing up any deals for my other brother, because we have no dealings together? My brother Steve. So we like, that doesn't even make any sense. For you to be worried about what I'm doing in my life, I'm being nothing but a gentleman as I'm speaking to you. So what I would ask is that you take all of that out of your voice and let's talk to each other like two men. The same conversation he had with Steve Harvey, which was confusing to me when Steve said on the show, Sid can't be out here flexing. He can't be doing all that flexing. Every conversation Steve and Sydney has ever had, Steve Harvey's been the one flexing and had to be pulled down off of that because he...
Not every, but just one when we were on the radio.
I'm sorry, you're right. You're right. The conversation we had on the radio, Sid had to pull him down off of that and say, hey, brother, I'm only talking to you like a gentleman. I'm going to need you to do the same. Now, after Sid and Gerald had that conversation, Gerald says to my husband, I really need to apologize to my sister. It's been 17 years since we talked, and I want to let her know I'm sorry for what I've done. He said, well, you don't have to tell me. Why don't you tell your sister? And my brother and I got on that phone after 17 years because I had closed myself off to him. And I said, I will never ever again speak to this man. And though I love my brother, I didn't think I would ever say those words to him again. But when we got on that phone and we began to talk, and it was the first time I've ever heard my brother speak from his heart. And my brother said, because they call me Nikki, Nikki, I want to apologize for what I did to you. And I want to apologize for the damage it may have caused you in your life. That caught me off because I wasn't expecting that from my brother. And then we began to talk about when he went on the Oprah Winfrey show. And when my brother said, Oprah told me you were coming. So I'm thinking the whole time that I'm going to be able to see and talk to my sister. I didn't find out you were going to be there until I got there that morning. And then she said, oh, by the way, Monique is not coming. So, in my humble opinion, that woman manipulated my family to have them believing one thing when there was actually something else. That woman manipulated me because she had me believing one thing and it was actually something else.
And specifically, the one thing she had her believing was it was just going to be Gerald that was going to be on the show and not Gerald, her brother Steve, her Miss Alice, her mother, and Mr. Steve, her father, that was going to be on the phone and when on the show. And when Monique addressed her, she said, I did not know that they were going to be there until the show was about to go on. Now, ironically, there was a show on, y'all might have seen it, on BET called The Monique Show. Mm. And on that show, in which we did 300 shows, we had the opportunity to experience what it is to do a show.
Yes.
A multitude of them. And there's never a time that the host does not know who it is that she's going to be hosting, because that would throw her completely off because she doesn't know the questions to ask. So it was a little disingenuous that she said that she didn't know that they were coming on the show.
Yes.
So again, part of the problem, which one of our callers just made mention, is putting people in high esteem or to a degree where you over-respect them. And if anyone knows anything about Monique, what she will do is, and who she is for, oftentimes is the underdog. But you over-respect no one. So the fact that there's this rumor with the Kim Whitleys of the world that Oprah's their God, the reason why we're having this conversation is because we do love Oprah. And we could not do her the disservice to think that she's risen to the realm of being a God and make her understand that it's okay to be amongst us mere mortals.